Thanks everyone, and welcome to the first in our new Arum approved system series that gives you an insight into the journey vendors go through for their system to become Arum accredited. Through this series, we're going to explore and discuss the landscape of vendors who provide technology to support collections and recoveries, whether it be dedicated collection and recovery systems, communication platforms, self-service technologies, risk and decisioning systems, and more. The idea is to bring an increased awareness of the capability available on the market today by different technology vendors in collection and recoveries, how it can be used, and what the future is looking like on the technology horizon for each vendor and their product roadmaps. We want to keep these sessions as interactive with you guys as possible, and we'll be popping in some polls throughout the session, which will visit the responses at the end of the session with a bit of discussion around these where time permits. With that in mind and focusing on the theme of the series, let's get an initial poll to kick off the webinar. This one's ideally aimed at the creditors who've joined. So which of you are looking to upgrade or change your collection system in the next 3 years? Our hope from an Arum perspective is that these vendor demonstrations will give something back to the creditor community, allowing a more public forum to increase your awareness and knowledge of the vendors in the market and their products that support collections and recoveries. And this will help you in future when looking to upgrade or implement new technologies in your organization. Slide, please. For those of you who don't know Arum, we're an independent company headquartered in the UK, but with a client base spanning over more than 20 countries worldwide. We work across all industry sectors in B2C, B2B, offering services across the credit management lifecycle and have been for over 20 years. Our goal is to help our clients achieve their strategic objectives by improving their regulatory, credit risk, and portfolio performance whilst maximising returns on their technology investments. We provide a blend of professional services, consulting, and unrivaled knowledge across the collections and recovery software landscape, including benchmarking analysis across over 30 collections and recovery systems vendors. Slide, please. As an introduction to me personally, I'm Owen Atkinson. I'm the lead business and technology specialist within Arum, and I look after all of the Arum approved accreditations, both in the systems and the services space. I've been with Arum for a little over 6 years now, and in collection recoveries over 15 years across a number of different industries spanning operational, credit risk, and systems management. We're kicking off the series with our most recent vendor to the Arum approved system accreditation, which is Exus. And I'm joined by Marius from Exus, who's kindly agreed to join us today for the first instalment of the series. Marius, would you like to provide a short introduction to yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, Owen. Good morning. Thank you for inviting Exus in this webinar series. I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm Marios Chiapas. I'm the product marketing lead in Exus. I have been in the industry for almost 20 years now, and the last 13 has been with Exus. What I would like to do today is give you an overview of Exus, present to you 2 case studies from different regions across the world, and also walk you through a pre-recorded demo of our software, highlighting some of the core capabilities offered and how you can take advantage of them. So again, thank you very much for the invitation. Now, the second poll, it's something that we would like to ask is, what do you think is the most important features of a modern debt collection system? So this is poll number 2, and we have some answers here. So we can move on to the next slide and you can respond to the poll.
Yeah, I mean, we've taken a few of the top themes for the poll over here that we see when carrying out system selection process on a client's behalf, as well as the frustrations we see in our current clients when they're struggling to maintain their collection recovery systems internally. So we'd like to see from you all what you feel are the most important features to you with the collections recovery system. And whilst that poll's running, I'm just going to talk you through what the Arum approved system is all about. So overall, the Arum approved system has been developed with a view that vendors have an impartial and independent route to benchmark their product through our team of industry experts. The programme overall assesses vendors' collection recovery system against our 20 core assessment categories, which you can see on screen. And we've built a scorecard overall to provide a view of how their systems perform in each of these areas. Vendors will receive a report with a key summary of the review, along with detail against each of the core capabilities to justify the scoring, along with key considerations, recommendations, and what we personally feel are the priority areas for the vendors to focus on within their product development. The program is designed to be agile, and it can flex to drill down on specific competencies if requested from vendors who want to vet certain aspects of their system from a unique selling point, or conversely areas that they feel need further development on in order to get an independent expert view from us on that. The program spans a 2 to 3 timeline with access to the vendors' product development, delivery and marketing teams, cover off key topics within each of the core capability areas. And this includes system demonstrations with use case examples and scenarios to understand the level of control and configurability the system has. We're fully flexible in accommodating different ways to facilitate the review. And this is really put in place to minimize the resource requirements at the vendor side, whilst maximizing the knowledge that we gain throughout the review to feed back to the vendors accordingly. We use Exus as a perfect example here. We changed the model to a more self-serve aspect where Exus gave us the keys to the EFS system for 2 weeks as a full sort of test drive for us to flesh out the available functionality and capability of the system with resource on hand for us and available at key points to chat through any of our findings, key areas we thought needed discussion ahead of us writing the final report. Now, I'm going to pass over to Marius to give you a little intro into Exus and who Exus are, as well as a demonstration into some of the key features of their EFS product. Over to you, Marius.
Oh, yeah, okay, thanks again. So we're going to do 3 things today. So the first one is have a look at Exus, give you a short overview, and then we'll present to you 2 case studies, and then finally the system demo. So if we move to the next slide, this is our core vision. So we aspire to transform the costly and often complex debt collection software, and we want to make it simple, intelligent, and exciting. These are our 7 unique advantages, or as we say, our brand promises. And the first one is we want to be independently ranked, a best-in-class debt collection software. The second one is we have a software which covers all collection needs, all products, all collection phases, all models, and that is with a single integrated solution. The third one is we have embedded know-how and intelligence built into our software. The fourth one, which is quite important, is the easiness of configuration and adaptability of our software without having to change or do any coding. The fifth one is the easy and fast implementation through the product automation. The sixth one is our exceptional customer service. And the last one is we focus on customer business results. Now, this is our brand promise guarantee. So we offer an out-of-the-box debt collection software, and we guarantee that any customization services that will be required after go live will be provided for free. Now, in the next slide, an overview of Exus. Our headquarters are in London. We have our research and development as well as support center in Athens, Greece. Exus has been in the business for over 30 years now. We have more than 50 customers worldwide, and we have presence in over 32 countries. In the next slide, you will see our footprint. So most of our implementations are in Europe, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. And we have a few countries just to get an indication of where we have projects. So UK, Spain, France, Athens, Cyprus, Finland, Sweden. These are some of the countries that we have current implementations. We have customers in pretty much every country in the Middle East, including Lebanon, Kuwait, Egypt, Tunis, Qatar, etc. And recently we have expanded in Southeast Asia, where we have customers in Thailand, Indonesia, and recently in Vietnam. So this is the third poll that we would like to get some answers from you. What do you think is the most important during a system implementation? So whether it is the fast implementation timeline, the high degree of system configurability and flexibility, the consultants' know-how and the overall implementation methodology, or ready-made integrations with multiple communication channels. Now, the software we are talking about is Exus Financial Suite. This covers pretty much everything in debt collection and recoveries. So we have Exus Collections for the pre-arrears and early arrears, Exus Legal Recoveries for managing the whole litigation process, Exus Collection Analytics, which provides you with insightful reporting, Exus Collection Self-Service, which is a self-service portal or a digital channel where your debtors can self-serve, Exus Field Collections, which is a mobile app that is used for field collections, and Exus Write-Off Management, which handles a portfolio of accounts after these have been written off. And if we take a look at the timeline, starting from pre-collections or early arrears, soft, pre-legal, restructuring, legal, and write-off, this is where our solutions map. We have a decision engine which is data-driven and is based on machine learning. The Exus Collection Self-Service, as I mentioned, is a digital channels through which your debtors can register promise to pay, can make payments, they can upload documents, see different restructuring options. Exus Field Collections, again, it's, as I mentioned, it's a mobile app. It has a backend which handles all the visit plan calculations, and it uses an intelligent routing algorithm to optimize the visit plans, and Exus Collection Analytics, which provides you with reporting regarding the operations and the performance of your collection strategies. So in the next slide, Exus has been consistently investing in the product for almost 2 decades now. So our first accreditation goes back in 2016, where Exus has been selected together with 14 other global vendors on the first ever loan collections technology system review. A couple of years later, we have been invited by Celent on their review of retail loan collection systems. And in 2021, we have received the Arum approved system accreditation. Some further details regarding each of these accreditation. So the first one by CB Towers, which is now part of Gartner, where Exus was ranked best in class in more product categories than any other vendor. These categories included core collections, customer management, enterprise technology, and enterprise support. Then the next one, which was by Celent, part of Oliver Wyman Group. This is something we are really proud of because it shows that we don't only have a best-in-class debt collection software, but we also offer an exceptional customer service, as we have been ranked highest amongst all vendor participants based on end-user feedback. And today we are here about the Arum approved system accreditation. I have to admit that Arum's approved system framework was the most extensive and in-depth system review process that I have ever witnessed. It went into really great detail in many areas, including, but not limited to, technology, functionality, user interaction, processing and controls, company roadmap, implementation approach, and many more. The recommendations we received from Arum were of extreme value to us as Exus, and we're really proud to receive this accreditation. Now, in the next 2 slides, I would like to give you an overview of 2 of our case studies. The first one is from the UK. It's one of our recent implementations. It's the financial services arm of a major UK retailer. This customer has over 100 concurrent agents handling a portfolio of over 100,000 delinquent accounts. Challenges faced by this company, they had a legacy collection system where pretty much everything from processes, strategies, interfaces were custom-made, and there was no ability to change anything by the business users. Some project facts. This project was delivered fully remotely It is a SaaS implementation. It took 6 months end-to-end. We cover all processes and collection strategies with pretty much everything done out of the box. We have offered a real-time CRM integration and as well as mass notifications for SMS, email, and letters. Some key success factors that we feel important to mention here is the thorough scoping that was done as part of the project initiation. We have integrated with the customer's backend systems utilizing existing file extracts. And we worked in a mixed mode where the customer had full ownership of the product parameterizations, and they were able to do the parameterization and configuration of the system by themselves. The next case study, which is from a couple of years back, it highlights the volume of accounts that our system can manage. So here we're talking about over 7 million accounts in total, with 1 million being delinquent, a really big call center with over 1,000 agents. This one is from Southeast Asia. The challenges of this customer, it took a lot of time to actually change and deploy a new strategy. Again, the current system offered no capability to change anything basically, and the agent productivity was really low, and there was no full view of the customer journey. Some of the results after our project implementation, where we managed to reduce the time to deliver a new strategy by 75%, and we increased the agent productivity to over 10%. Again, similar project facts. It took 7 months end-to-end for phase 1, which was handling the mortgages portfolio, out-of-the-box implementation and integration with 5 different systems. What is important here is some quotes from the CTO of the bank, things like the cleanest implementation I've ever experienced. A lot of vendors maximize customization, whereas Exus was the exact opposite. Our contribution in the project was completed in much shorter time frame than the original 7 months. And really there was nothing that needed to be resolved since going live. So now we can go to the system demo. We have a video prepared. Let's start with Exus Financial Suite. So the software has a unified admin and agent UI. It's a web application. It's a multilingual application. You log in as a business administrator. You have access to all the tools and every entity that can be configured to support your operational needs. At the same time, you're able to search for customers and accounts. So you do all that from a unified interface. You don't have to switch between various applications. We'll go back to the agent interface in a while. So this is the first thing. We have a business rule engine, which really gives you the flexibility to configure pretty much everything in the system. And we take as an example of the segmentation process, where you can simply define a new segment, and then you can set up your business rules according to which accounts will be mapped to that segment. So in this example, we're just configuring a segment for our credit cards in early arrears. And this is how you can select from the rich library of out-of-the-box criteria. We offer things like the product category, the days past due, bucket, account status. As I mentioned, we offer over 400 of these ready-made criteria you can use. We offer a simulation engine, so you can actually see, after you make some changes to the rule, what is the distribution of accounts in the segments before the end-of-day process is executed. How you can design a collection strategy in our system. This is done through a visual designer. So in this example, we want to design a strategy for our credit cards. We have a timeline based on days past due, where we simply add the collection activities that will need to take place. So we can set up some SMSs, some emails, phone calls, letters, any activity. And of course, changing the timing or the duration of the activities is pretty straightforward. You can also give some colors to these just to distinguish them in the timeline. You can again use the business rule engine, so you can add additional rules for each of these activities. Let's say you want the call to take place over a threshold for days past due. You simply do that. What the strategy designer also allows you to do is to define exclusions. So, what happens if customers complain or you receive a pending promise to pay. You can easily define these exclusions. You can set up letters, and you can ignore some of the exclusions. So if a letter needs to go out regardless of the exclusions, you can just tick there and ignore the exclusions. You can apply a strategy to one or more than one segments. Again, you use the business rule engine to do that. It's very straightforward, as you see here. And you just map a segment to the collection strategy. As part of the collection strategy, you can do champion challenger. So you select your strategy, you initiate a wizard. This wizard allows you to create a challenger from an existing champion or one from scratch. You specify what percentage of accounts you want to feed to the challenger. You make any changes you want to the challenger. So perhaps you want to remove some of the SMSs and replace them with a two-way SMS. You save the new strategy, you publish both the champion and the challenger, and then you have access to some dashboards which allows you to monitor the performance using some KPIs like collected amount, the cost, bucket shift, etc. So this is how you can actually start your experiment. Speaking of two-way SMSs, our system supports two-way integration with digital channels such as SMS and Viber, for example. In this case, you might want to offer your customers a PTP with some possible responses like yes, no. You define the channel through which this will be sent. You configure the messages. So this is like a template where you write your text. You include some tags like the past due amount or the customer name. And then you configure the possible actions based on the customer response. So in here, if the customer replies with no, you can set an automatic registration of this action code. Whereas if the customer replies with yes, then you can register automatically a promise to pay, and you can configure the days from the promise together with the amount. So this is a tool you can use in earlier years. The messages are sent in real time. So we have a workflow designer for this. You select the segment of the portfolio you want to send these messages. Then in this step, you can send the message, and based on the customer response, you either go to a different step like unable to pay or a thank you message. In terms of queuing and account handling, so all the queues from the strategy, they have an option to order the accounts in the queue. You define also the working mode. We support pull and cherry pick mode, as well as FIFO mode. You can order the accounts in a queue if we're talking about the pull mode by a number of criteria, like you see here, the total balance in descending order, and you can use up to a combination of 3 criteria to do this ordering. And also you can have other queues, which, for example, you might want to work in a totally different mode, like a cherry pick mode. In terms of the pull mode, we support call campaigns. You link the call campaign with a predictive dialer. You assign to this campaign a number of queues you want to call, and then you link the campaign with a group of users. So this is an example where a group of users have been assigned to this campaign. And now if we log in as an agent being part of that campaign, again, you use the same login screen. Each agent is presented with their own dashboard. You go to the queues where you have access to the queues that you need to work with. You select the queue. We can simulate a predictive call through this tool we have, and then the system can automatically send you the first customer and account you need to work with. This is an example of a typical agent UI. I say example because you can configure that. We support smart scripting. So based on the configuration you can do in the system, you can present to the agent a smart script that, depending on the customer response, it can guide the agent. Like if the customer is able or unable to pay, you can automatically register, for example, here, unable to pay. You can configure the reasons for this inability to pay. So everything you see here, it's out of the box. You save your response and the system automatically registers this unable to pay action. You click mark done and you're finished with this case and you can go to the next one. In the other mode of working, which is the cherry pick mode, again, this is a configurable list layout. You can decide which columns you want to show to the agent, how the agent can sort the cases. You can use this navigation, which allows you to go one by one. You can register an action code. These action codes are configurable, of course. We have a messaging system built in. So if the agent wants to communicate with the supervisor and wants to transfer this account to the supervisor in real time because they want to check something together, they can do this through this chat mechanism. So they click the button and the supervisor receives the notification as well as the account in his or her screen. Again, you can register any kind of action code. You still have access to the smart scripting functionality, even you're in cherry pick mode, so you can again start a script. How these scripts are configured, basically it's like a workflow where you design the whole conversation script in this way. You can display a welcome message to the agent, what options will be available to the agents, like the ability to pay or inability to pay. Based on these options, you can then go to the other parts of the workflow, where you see here the out transitions. So if the agent selects a promise to pay, then you configure here which action code will automatically be registered, whereas in the other case of inability, you configure another action code. And of course, in the end, you could present a thank you message where the agent can thank the debtor for making this promise to pay. These scripts, again, you use the business rule engine. Which script is available is depending on the role, on the product category, on the bucket. So you can have different scripts presented to different roles using a combination of the criteria. So for early buckets, you might show this script. For later buckets or for restructuring, you might show another script for restructuring. When it comes to income and expenditure registration, we offer the capability to configure these so-called data forms. So this is an example of a data form where you can define what information the agent needs to register. We support calculated fields. There is also fields where you have like number, currency, pretext, and in terms of calculations, you can use operators to calculate, for example, the disposable income based on the customer income and expenses. Now, if you register the income and expenditure action code, this is where the data form is displayed. You can start filling in the information. The system does all the calculations in the background. So based on the salary of the customer, based on the bills that they have to pay, you see that the disposable income changes in real time based on the calculations we have set up in the data form.
And I think just while you're on that bit, Marios, and as you can see on with the income
we can pause that if you want to.
Yeah. I was just going to say, as we're on screen with the income and expenditure, this is fully configurable, isn't it, by the client? So, for example, when you were dealing with UK clients previously, there was the common financial statement, and now it's moved to the SFS, the standard financial statement. and your system is fully configurable to change those data forms with the relevant calculations to accommodate those changes, isn't it?
Exactly, and also the calculated fields can be mapped to existing metrics in our system, existing criteria. So like the disposable income immediately becomes a metric in our system, which you can use, of course, in your collection strategies or in prioritizing the accounts in a queue. Basically, these metrics are available throughout our application. Okay, we can resume, I guess, the video where we will. Okay, so this is a part where we show the management of DCAs, where you can configure these DCAs, whether you allow geographical distribution, how are you going to pay commissions to these DCAs is configurable. You set up your assignment schemes. So this is how you say in the system, which accounts need to be assigned to which agencies. You have entry rules. Again, you use the business rule engine to either select a queue from a strategy or a step from a workflow. You set up automatic recall rules. Typical example, if customer pays and DPD goes to 0, then automatically recall this. You select which debt collection agencies you want to outsource. You can set up the factor based on the distribution method, like you see here in the number of cases, or there can be other metrics like total balance or due amount, or you can use round robin and a combination of these criteria. The system will distribute the accounts based on the factor. What you can also configure regarding DCAs, it's something which we call good and bad handling. So in this case, you are given the possibility based on business rules to say whether handling made by the agency was good or bad. And because we keep track of some KPIs during the start and end of the assignment, you can compare buckets, for example, or you could say if the bucket at the end of the assignment was 0, then this was a good handling. On the contrary, if the bucket at the end of the assignment was greater than the bucket at the start of the assignment, then this was a bad handling. And the reason you're doing that is because you want to be able to define certain behaviors. Like in the case of bad handling, you might want to exclude more accounts from being assigned to the same DCA, either once or in the next period of X days or in the next 3 assignments. And contrary to that, in the case of good handling, you want to reassign more cases. We support manual assignments and recalls, as well as exclusions. So here you define which action code will mean manual assignment, exclusion, or recall, from which agency you want to exclude. It can be a predefined agency or a user-defined agency. And also you set up the expiration mode, how often this, how long this expiration, this exclusion will last for. Now, when these assignments run, the system creates the packages. So you can see which accounts has been assigned to which agency. You see a list of them together with the assignment amounts and buckets at the start and end of the assignment. You can recall a whole package if you want to, and you can reassign a package from one agency to another. As simple as that. We offer a portfolio browser tool where you can easily see all your accounts, where they have been assigned. So here you see on DCA number 1, we have this number of accounts, and you click on it and you see the package and all the list of accounts, which you can export, of course, if you want in an Excel file. If you are an agent working in a DCA and we have an online access of this agency, now you can see that this agent can see the accounts from the agency, and they can pretty much work like in-house agents. In terms of the self-service portal, you set up different campaigns for this portal, whether you want to have the full repayment of the loan or not. You set up different repayment options. So this is all configuration. And then the customer will receive an SMS together with some credentials. They can log into the portal. They can see their delinquent accounts. You can present to them some information. The customer can register a promise to pay, as you can see here. So based on the campaign, you can set up different payment options. There is a calendar where the customer selects the promise date, and you can then submit that. We provide a questionnaire so that if the customer wishes to submit their answers, and now we have a pending promise for that date. You can also configure some questionnaires just to grab any qualitative information from the debtor, like what is the reason for inability to pay, some comments, and the debtor can submit their answers. The debtor can also send a message through here, an email, or they can ask to be called by the call center. And there are many more features which we need more time to go through, like the calculation of agent incentives, repayment plans, commission calculation for DCAs, asset management, system of record for written-off accounts, intelligent routing for field collections, lazy pairs prediction using machine learning, costing and budgeting, litigation, handling invoices, and many more. So I hope it gave a good overview of our core capabilities. We would be very happy, of course, if somebody wishes to have an extended version demo to that. So the mic over to you, Owen.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Marios, and really appreciate you taking the time, obviously, to go through the demo today. Our final poll of the session, and this is a big one for both us and vendors, really, to understand, as we see a number of new system projects that fall down at various different hurdles. So it'd be good to get a view of what you see as the biggest challenges when looking to enhance your collections technology. We'll just leave that to run in the background as we move on. So from a vendor perspective, one question that we get asked personally of vendors is why join the Arum Approved System program? And the simple answer from us is we have decades of experience of working with collection and recovery systems. We've managed hundreds of product demonstrations, contractual negotiations, system implementations as independent advisors sitting on the client side. And that provides us with intimate and detailed knowledge on how to compete in the credit industry in terms of system capability. The program isn't just a stamp that you can use on your marketing material, websites, tender responses, etc. It provides an independent, detailed assessment of your system with improvement recommendations based on our industry expertise, along with insights into current and future industry trends and requirements. We provide a view of which markets we feel your product's most suited towards, and equally discuss in detail development areas for your future growth and reach of the product. Although there are many material benefits of being Arum approved, which can be seen on screen, there are so many other benefits that you unlock from going through the program. And if we just move on to the next slide, of course, the main outcome from this is the creditor. And we can't really forget the creditor in this journey overall. And as demonstrated throughout, we hold a vast vendor knowledge base of over 100 different technologies that are used to support the credit industry. We've been working with creditors in this space for more than 2 decades. And leading the credit industry in terms of independent client-side advisory support, whether it be selecting, acquiring, or implementing new technologies. We've got a robust framework, as you can see on screen, which covers the full end-to-end process when looking to adopt or replace systems and how they link in with your organisation's technology roadmap. Move on to the next slide. So finally, I'd like to thank Marius and the full Exus team for their time today. And throughout the Arum approved system, their openness across their product has been absolutely brilliant for us to be able to give them a full independent review. And I wish them all the success in the future on that roadmap. As we've got a little bit of time, I think it's probably worthwhile just checking the polls from earlier. And Marius, if you're comfortable, we'll have a little bit of discussion around the answers we've got there before we wrap up the session. So the first poll we ran today was obviously it was at the start of the session, and we were looking to understand who on the webinar was looking to upgrade or change collection system in the next 3 years. And this is an interesting one from a response side, from my side, because everyone has said they're not sure, which is really interesting. I was expecting we'd have attendees who were absolutely looking to change in the next 3 years, and that's why they're attending, to kind of get a view from your system, Mario. It's a bit of a public demo, I suppose. But to get 100% response back, I'm not sure, is that's really interesting, and it kind of paints a picture, whether it be through the current environment or just where organisations potentially are in their crossroads of decisions, that they're just maybe not sure on where the technology market's going or what they physically need. What are your thoughts on that response?
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that, to be honest with you. Well, the market, we have seen actually a surge in systems demand. So I'm not really sure how this coincides with this surge in demand. However, I can understand, that some people are not really sure whether they should change or not. We feel that now it's the best time to actually start looking for a system if you have already not started looking for one. Because, post-COVID, things can get much harder. We have invested quite a lot to both in the machine learning part of our software, together with digital channel integration. So I think definitely these two are the trends that we see in the market. And I'm not really sure whether the current vendors, or at least the vendors that we're looking in recent RFPs, have these capabilities.
That's good. That's a good view from you, Marius. And I suppose from my side, and the reason we're doing the Arum approved system is obviously it's a benefit to the vendors like yourselves. You talked very briefly around kind of the benefits you've seen from the report and the recommendations that we've provided. But I think also doing this Arum approved series, given that response of not sure, I think this will really give what my intention was, which is to give a little bit more public view to the creditor industry of what's on the market out there from a vendor perspective to support technology in collection recoveries. So people may not know what their roadmaps look like from a collection side, and collections is often the last thing for people to look at, which is an unfortunate shame from my perspective, but it is something that I'm hoping through this series will start to get greater traction from the creditor space, so that they can understand what's available on the market, the technologies that can be deployed in collection recoveries, and how that can be utilised for their organisations and implement into their roadmaps overall. So if we move on to the second poll, that was around the most important features of the collection system, and the results on this one don't surprise me at all. A bit of a 50-50 split on top here, which is modern intuitive design from both the user and admin perspective, as well as an expandable feature set that caters for future requirement, including regulatory and strategic. That really doesn't surprise me from what we see when we're working with creditors. It doesn't surprise me when I see a lot of when we go through system selection processes and what are top priorities for organisations overall and what they're looking for from a collection system. People are looking for more business-friendly, user-intuitive design from a collection software, rather than less coding and ability from the IT side of things. Marius, are you finding that with RFIs and selection processes you're going through from the other side?
Yes, but I also have to mention that we see this rapid change and deployment being really, really important. I mean, in all our recent requests for proposals, we see that the rapid deployment is actually the number one. Okay, the other ones are obvious, like the flexibility and intuitive design and everything. But we have requests like we need to go live in 3 months. So, and this is typical that we see lately. So I was really surprised that no one answered that, to be honest.
Brilliant. The third poll was more around the importance during a system implementation. And this is interesting. This is a real split panel on the focus areas for people on this. So a combination of fast implementation timeline, which really falls in line with what you just said there on RFP responses, of priorities that you get from creditors, along with high degree of system configuration and flexibility, and ready-made integrations with multiple channels of communications with customers. Definitely on the ready-made integration side, I know from working with many different vendors on implementations, the sticking point has always been a combination of client, other vendor, and even collection system vendor kind of development and IT back-end teams to integrate with various different channels. So that one doesn't surprise me, that if there's out-of-the-box plugins to X, Y, or Z, other vendors or technologies on the market, that's up there as a high priority. But definitely interesting on the split panel here between the answers. You got anything to add on that, Marius?
Yeah, I agree with this distribution, let's say, of responses. However, the remote delivery, which didn't get any votes, it's actually something that, again, we see from practice. We deliver remotely in. We had delivered remotely in the UK recently. We deliver remotely in Vietnam. We deliver remotely in Middle East. And this is something that I think will continue for the next year for sure. So it's definitely something that we have invested a lot into, to actually have the templates and the methodology specifically for remote delivery. And we see that it works very well, even in locations like very far away, such as Vietnam. We see that basically people are really used to it by now. So whereas before the physical presence was mandatory, now we see that the customers are really happy to engage in this journey through remote delivery.
That, Marius. And finally, and this was the one that I was really interested in the responses of, and probably less from your side that you get an insight into this, but it was around what the biggest challenges are when looking to enhance collections technology. Now, working from a client side, we generally see quite a lot of issues when it comes to the investment and budget in relation to the benefits case and the ROI from a collection side, and that's usually something that we get asked to come in and support clients with. So it's interesting that actually hasn't received any votes on the poll, and actually it's a split panel between kind of the technical landscape with infrastructure and the resourcing skill sets, knowledge and experience. I'm not surprised on the resourcing skill sets, knowledge and experience. Definitely what we found with implementations across the last few years is that clients are moving from quite legacy technology where their internal resource has moved on, retired, and they haven't got that skill set there anymore to help migrate to a new system. So going to the new system, absolutely brilliant. You'll get new people trained up and off you go. But actually the resource that you have internally that knows the current landscape, what you've been doing for the past X amount of years, that's where we've seen a lot of projects kind of fall down. So it's good to see that one up there. I suppose when you're actually doing implementations, Marius, is there anything that stands out which provides blockers or challenges that you see from the client side when they're trying to implement technology with yourselves?
Well, integration is usually one topic that stands out quite often. Timescales, I would say, is the second one. And here, I think it's quite, let's say, the opposite of what we offer, because we offer a really rapid implementation. And sometimes we feel that customers cannot really keep up with this. So I think the time scale of 4 to 6 months is quite, let's say, the standard these days. Regarding the skill set, I think we haven't, it's not really a challenge we see. Most of our customers have the skill set, the knowledge, the experience. So I don't see a challenge there.
Okay. That's interesting, obviously, with the differences that you see from a vendor side to the differences we see from predominantly being client side, and then again with the responses that we've received from the attendees here. So
Yeah.
that wraps polls, and from a Q&A perspective, the plan is that we will send out an output document with the results of the polls, a summary of this webinar, and any questions that we've received throughout the session. And if we just move on to the next slide, Dom. I'd just like to thank everyone, obviously, for joining us today. Thanks for taking part in the polls. I'm hoping that this has been useful for people to get a view of, one, what the Arum Approved System series is going to be all about with the different vendors that we're going to have on this series, as well as a view into EFS from an Exus side with what Marius has shown today. Again, thanks, Marius, for joining me on this one today and giving a view and taking part in a bit of Q&A at the end with the polls. And overall, thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you all tune into the next episode that we have for the Arum Approved System series with one of our next vendors, and they'll be showing their unique capabilities, roadmap and insights, and that'll be in the coming weeks. And just as we close the webinar, there will be a short survey pop up. We do appreciate the feedback overall from the webinar and how it's ran today. And yeah, thanks very much for joining. Thanks, Marius.
Thanks, Owen. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.